Hey, 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 welcome back to Manifest Her. I'm Nikki Dimitri. That's the fabulous Brittany Lee. We appreciate you for tuning in once again with us. Today, we're going to be talking about dating, share a couple of our personal dating archives. We're going to dig deep in the archives, pull out some good stories to share with everyone out there. Hopefully, it resonates with you. Well, let's get
I'm
at
so
it.
excited to talk about dating. We've got some stories. I'm excited. How's your week been?
I've had a really productive, amazing week. I mean, it's only Tuesday so far, but I told you I've been going full steam ahead with this business and I'm just making a lot of leaps and strides. So I'm feeling good. I got my business phone number today. I got into my email for my business. I got my business address all lined up. So I'm feeling good, super
That's
productive.
amazing.
I'm manifesting the things. I'm creating the 2024, that I want. So stay tuned. Details will start to slowly emerge.
I love it. I'm so excited. I think it's going to be great. I love that you have something that you're excited about that you're working towards.
I'm excited. I just want to grow this year, girl. And I feel like I'm doing it in every aspect compared, especially to last year. Again, it's about being an entrepreneur. I'm going to speak specifically to that because that's where I've been stuck. And so, like last year, leaving my career and going full entrepreneur, I was stuck for so long and I did not know what to do. You've heard me say it a thousand times over, I'm sure, but that was like my biggest hurdle, and my energies just kept shrinking. And I had all this fear and doubts and negative thoughts. And consequently, I stood still. Like I was just becoming stagnant and small and just unsure, and working with Melanie predominantly, I've started to come out of that shell. And, we did that resolution revolution. If y'all missed it, go back. We talked about it in one of our episodes previously, but that was a game changer going through that workshop and the new wave and all the ones. We really did a bunch at the end of the year, kind of starting with new wave got me juiced up, to get into the other things. But really getting into that, it's felt so different. And again, we're only in February, girl. Like, and for us both to be creating the way that we are. And so, again, specifically as an entrepreneur, I am going a different direction, but it's a direction I considered before. And it just feels good. And I'm actually going forward with it. Whereas last year, like, yeah, there's some fears, obviously, but I have the tools. I can push past the fears and be like, nope, do it. It feels right. It feels good. Keep going. Don't be afraid of that outcome. And that's really like when Melanie spoke to that and us fearing disappointment so much. That was one of the biggest things that previously held me back, that I'm feeling like I'm overcoming and like pushing through. And that's the main part of what's been making my week so good. Like, it's not that I've done a thousand million things, or, but for my level to get to there and to make any progress and to have a direction and to have a map and to say, okay, this is exactly what I want and exactly how I'm going to get there. It's been a minute coming.
This week I want to I'm spending my nights planning things and doing tarot readings and getting myself back in my vibe. And then next
Nice.
week when that program starts, then we'll do that. That'll be good.
Well, then we have the full snow moon on Saturday. So,
Ooh.
yeah, make sure you're
I
accounting for that.
Yeah, I'm going to a sound bath on Saturday.
Oh,
I
perfect.
need to find someone to go with me. So I'm gonna go.
Ooh.
It'll be good.
Because I was just complaining about my weight or whatever when I first started losing it. And he's like, am I part of the reason? I said, yeah, because his motto is like, keep them fed. That's all he used to say to
Yeah.
me. He's like, my dad said, you want to make a woman happy? Keep them fed. I said, no, Jensen, that's the worst advice your father could have ever given you.
It's true though. I was driving today to get my kids from school. I'm vibing. I was playing Janet Jackson, getting myself hyped for the concert, and trying to just enjoy myself. But I'm starving. And Addison's texting me, "Where are you?" And I didn't text back because I'm driving. And then she calls me, and when she calls, it interrupts my music. And I answer, and I'm like, "What, dude?" And she's like, "Where are you?" And so I told her where I was, and I was like, "I'll be there in a minute." And then 2 minutes go by, and Haley calls, And I'm like, hello? And she's like, where are you? And I just start screaming at her. I'm like, I told you I'm on my way. I will be there when I get there. You just like going. I mean, I was yelling at this child for calling and saying, where are you?
He was hungry, man.
Yeah, I was so hungry. And then I picked him up and I'm like, and then I get my smoothie and I'm like, so what do you guys want to do tonight? And they're both just looking at me like, I hate you. Why are you talking to me like that? I got them mad now. If I would have been fed, those children wouldn't have been yelled at.
That's what he said. Don't let your woman get hangry. Keep him fed. So he
It's
kept
so
me
true.
fed, and I just plumbed on up.
He just needs to do better. Like, here's some grapes. Here's some
Right.
artichoke.
Right.
Those are the first things.
Lettuce.
Yeah. Let's keep you fed with some carrot sticks and some ranch.
Right.
You just need to buy
Remember
the
that.
good snacks. Yeah. That's funny. I love that he does that though. He's taking care of you.
He is. But I got my water. That's my thing. And I don't ever hydrate. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
That's something I have to work on and consciously do because I don't get thirsty.
I get more thirsty
If I do,
at
I
night.
want juice. You know?
I don't buy juice because if I'm gonna drink stuff, I only drink water. But I used to drink like easily close to a gallon a day. When I started drinking a gallon a day, it didn't even feel like I had to change much. But now I don't know what happened that made me stop. I think because I stopped going to the gym. When you go to the gym, it's easier to drink a lot of water.
Yeah.
But I drink like one Stanley a day. Well,
Nice.
like two Stanleys a day, which is
Those
like
are
80
big.
ounces.
Yeah.
But that's not. I mean, I guess that's
a lot.
I
That's
used
a lot.
to drink a
80
lot more.
ounces?
Yeah. It's not a lot for me, I guess. But did you know that when you go get waxed, they can tell how much water you drink?
Why? Because how easy the hair comes out?
I assume. But when Brooke, the first time that I got waxed with her, she was doing it for free because she was training someone and she needed someone to come in. So instead of like talking to me, she was talking to the girl. And like, so when she was waxing me, one of the things she said, she's like, so you can tell that she drinks a ton of water. And I was like, you can tell I drink a ton of water? So, wow.
I did not know that.
So now every time I wax, literally I think about how much water have I had lately? Are they going to know I'm not drinking enough water? Every time I think about it.
They probably be like, you is dehydrated, bitch, looking at me. But you drink beer all the time? No water?
Now when you go in, you're going to think about it every time, too. I'm like chugging my water before I go in. That's so funny. Awesome. I didn't know that.
Shout out Brazilian.
Yeah. Speaking of, that gets me thinking about all the boys. Because that's what it's not what we get Brazilians for, but definitely for me, it's for me. But should we talk about our dating lives?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, let's just start with like right when we got divorced, what it was like getting back into dating. Start there.
So when I first got divorced, I actually, I'm trying to think if I should say that or not.
Say it. Do it.
I was a dancer. I'll say it like that. I got into dancing.
Okay.
And I danced at the nightclubs, and I met the first guy I really kind of started dating outside of that in the club that I was dancing at. And he was just funny, like so funny. That was kind of the first thing. I love a humorous guy, any guy. That's one of the first things that attracts me is like your humor. So I tend to be attracted to a lot of nerds and things like that. They really are funny. So
yeah, they are.
They're not too cool. Like these guys that play like too cool for school. And so he was just making me crack up. I'm trying to dance and I couldn't really take the dancing seriously because he kept cracking jokes. So we kind of hit it off. And you're never supposed to give your number and things, obviously. And I think I gave my Facebook, and it was through Zumba. I was teaching Zumba at the time. And I was like, So you can come to one of my classes. He was military. And I'm like, oh, I teach on base. That's cool. You can totally check out one of my classes. And that's where that kind of began. And then we had a whirlwind relationship on again, off again for many years. But that was kind of my first taste right out the box
Mm.
and how I met him.
Is he the one
How about
that
you?
I remember there was someone. Has he come to Utah to visit?
Sunny?
Oh, that is Sunny that you're talking about?
Yeah, that was Sunny. I don't know if we're supposed to
Oh.
say names. Are we saying names?
I'm saying names. I'm not gonna say names of two of them, but the other ones they deserve that name said. I don't care at all. And then you'll know who I'm talking about, and you were there for all of it, so yeah,
I
I'm
guess there
dropping
could be a
those names.
gazillion Sunnies out there.
Yeah. I didn't
No,
know
that
that's
was
how you
Sunny.
met him.
That's how I met him. And he had this, and then he showed up at one of my Zumba classes. Like he actually showed up, and I'm like, oh shit. And he was kind of like
Yeah.
short and not my type, but again,
Yeah.
his personality, and he had a really good body too. Ooh,
Mm.
back then he was pumped. Ooh, them muscles had me drooling. I'm like, okay, short guy with the big Schwarzenegger body.
That's funny. So you guys did the off and on thing for a long time because he
A long.
wasn't even that long ago. I mean, it's been years, but
Yeah, when you saw him, when I tried him again recently, it ended really bad. It became a very toxic relationship quickly. To be honest, like he's an alcoholic. I'm not giving his full. That's not even his real name. That's his nickname. So I don't think I'm outing anyone too much, but he's an alcoholic and he's not admitted it yet, come to terms with it yet. Matter of fact, I just saw him when I visited last year and I went out in Ogden with
oh
Eileen
yeah,
and we was on whatever the street. I don't know. I don't go out in Ogden that much,
one
32nd
of the
Street or
bars.
something. Yeah. And sure enough, we go across the street. We're having a little girls' night in one of these places. I think it was Kokomo's or something. And I'm like, yo, I saw him and he was looking tore up.
Uh,
Tore. Back when I was dating him, he was actually fine, just short and weird. He was kind of weird, but I kind of like that about him.
yeah.
But he was fine. He used to take care of himself. He was super healthy. His body was nonstop. Penis was not the jam, but what he did with it, let's just be honest.
You're my favorite.
It's not the size of the boat, it's the motion in the ocean.
Oh, that's only true to an extent, though. There's a certain size of the boat where the boat can't do its job.
It was a very tiny boat. It was like a one person boat, like a kayak. Those one person kayak. It wasn't like a cruise ship or anything.
Oh my god.
One person kayak.
That's funny. I don't have like a super
Oh.
strong opinion about him. I feel like you never seemed very happy with him. It was more like he was like, well, your accessory. Like how you bring a purse with you places, you would just bring Sunny sometimes. Then you were just
And I
like,
think, honestly, it's funny that you say that because I think that's how we always kind of were. Not to say I didn't love him and things like that, but I just think that was our dynamic, and kind of maybe part of why it didn't work. Part of me couldn't take him seriously, like I questioned his sexuality, which if he was swinging any other way, that's fine, but tell me. It's not that, I care, but let me make the choice. Be honest if you're not just like a heterosexual. And
right.
so I questioned like his sexuality a lot. And that kind of made him more like I was the dominant, in the relationship, which is why you had that accessory effect.
Yeah.
I was dominant, but I was dominant in a lot. Like I was kind of dominant in my marriage too, a little bit, besides,
Yeah.
the control that he
That's
had
true.
emotionally,
You have
you
always
know.
been dominant, I feel like, with a lot of them. And now you're very. Jensen really lets you be in your feminine. I didn't ever really think about that.
And that's one of the beautiful, beautiful things. For the first time, I can be in my feminine. I don't have to be dominant. I don't have to wear those pants. I don't have to feel like. But these men, like, he was just the first. I dated sometimes casually and short, sometimes lengthy. And it's like every time they usually were people that kind of looked for that mother. Like they looked for it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's why that relation is like symbiotic. They want that mother type of, female that's going to tell them what to do
Yeah.
and be dominant and
Oh.
control all the things, and they can't stand up. They're like, yes, men. I almost said his name. This other guy I dated, his name's a little more unique, so I ain't gonna say it.
Yeah.
We'll call him D. D was like that and very feminine. I don't know what it was about me. I was just like attracting feminine men or something.
Yeah. I used to too.
And so I was always the dominant. Yeah.
That's so
That didn't
funny. I
work. It was just really toxic and it ended. And by the time you saw him, I don't know. I had had him. I literally, when we had broken up before, it was like Dateline level. And I cut myself off every way possible from him and didn't have years of contact. I don't know how we came across each other or why I decided, I can't really remember, but I think I saw him or something somewhere and he looked totally different. His hair was long. Back when I was dating him, he had a little cute shortcut and stuff, but he had like this long hair and he seemed different, but that's always a facade. And it didn't last because
yeah.
he wasn't different at all, and I had to let
Yeah.
that go. I cut that real quick that last time that I gave him a
Mm-hmm.
chance. Yeah.
You did. And I don't even remember you even talking about him. Like, you definitely never seemed very into him. Like I said, it was like an accessory.
He was never what I had was yeah, it was never, and like I said, it's not like I didn't love him like as a person and who he was, but it was never
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't feel like he was the one.
Yeah. Just didn't
It
have
was just
this
like it's
strong
fun.
connection.
You ever
Yeah.
hear Mr. Right Now? That's what I've
Yeah.
heard of before. Somebody's like, there's Mr. Right and there's Mr. Right Now.
Mm-hmm.
you know? And he was Mr. Right Now.
Yeah.
Sonny spoiled me. And
He
that was a
did.
big part of the attraction, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. I love to be spoiled. I ain't gonna stop you from spoiling me. It
Yeah.
don't make me like I'm not a gold digger,
But
you
it's
know?
also wild how men just like want to spoil you. Like when
Yeah.
we go out together and there's someone buying you drinks, like they don't just want to buy your drink; they want to buy all of our drinks just to make you know that they're taking care of you, and they like want to
Yeah.
take you shopping. And like, I need to pull in some of your energy because I've never even been given a gift from a man, and you're like, you get so spoiled. You just have that about you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know where that comes from, to be honest. I couldn't say, oh, it's because of XYZ,
Yeah,
or anything other than maybe if I could attribute it to one thing, maybe it's just the way that my father treated me, to
yeah.
be honest. Like
I
we
think
had
that's
a
a big
beautiful
part of it.
relationship. I was daddy's girl and he made sure I knew it. My
Mm-hmm.
dad treated me like everything. And so, if anything, I think maybe just he set that bar of what a man that loves you and claims he cares about you, or is interested. And then my mom and them too, I will kind of give it to them because they were always, you saw that photo of my mom?
Mm-hmm.
She's like high class. Like, she was getting spoiled. You saw how she looked, like nails, high heels. So
Yeah,
I just think between the two, it kind of just developed. My mom's like, this is how a lady is gonna be treated, but it's also where a lot of my dominance came from too, was from my mom,
yeah.
at the same time. So learning to balance that, but it really, yeah, I was never like, oh, you're the one. I want to give you babies. I want to marry you. He even asked me to marry him many times. And sometimes I turned him down. Sometimes I accepted, the proposal. I pawned the ring a couple times. Like
A couple times. He
he kept
just
buying
kept
me
buying
rings
you.
and things.
Oh my
Sister needed
gosh.
money. Times was tough.
I love that you had that relationship with your parents. I never got that from me. Like none of that. My dad, I just never had. He lived in other states until I was like 12 or 13, and then I mean, I saw him, but not like I would never say we had a really great relationship. And my mom, I don't want to say anything about my mom, but I didn't learn from them, I don't feel like. So I think
Yeah.
that's a lot of
Yeah.
why I struggle with things.
What about
But
your first experience coming out of divorce? What was that
yeah.
like?
So for me, it was really, really weird because I didn't date before I got married. I had never experienced dating before. And it was just like, it was Tinder. Like, that's the age that we were in. I never have really, I mean, only once I've met someone in person. But so I remember downloading the dating apps when my ex-husband like first moved out, and I thought I was so ready, and I was like, I'm gonna start dating, and I was excited about it because I wanted to be treated well. And I started talking to a guy. I still occasionally, when I get on dating apps, I'll see his picture on there, and I would never match with him now. But every time I see him, I think about him as like he is the first person I talked to, and I just felt so awkward. Like, just talking to someone else that wasn't my husband, it was so hard for me. And I felt really weird, so I immediately deleted everything, which was very upsetting to me because I was treated so poorly. So to also not
Mm-hmm.
feel ready to be treated well, like, really messed with my head. And it
Mm-hmm.
was hard. But I started dating someone, um, I think it was like 6 months after I had separated. I wasn't divorced yet, but I dated him. So we met, we went on a few dates, and then he moved to Idaho. Like, within a week and a half of us meeting, he moved to Idaho. And it was supposed to be temporary. It ended up being permanent. But so we did like kind of a long distance thing. We would talk all the time. We weren't seeing other people. And then I really, really liked him because like 4 months went by. It's so easy to get like when it's long distance and you don't like feel their energy and experience being with them. It's very easy to not really know who they are and to like fall for the
Mm-hmm.
texts of like who they portray themselves. So I went to Idaho to visit him. And I don't even know if I've told you the entire story about this because it's so cringy. I've told you like pieces I know, but I drive down there and I'm so stoked to see him. It had been months, and at this point, like, I was in love with him. Like, we told each other that we loved each other, and we'd only seen each other in person like 3 times. Um, so I get there and we go for a drive, and we're sitting there talking. This man, I don't know how it came up, but we were talking about, I don't know. He just all of a sudden started talking about how white people should only be having babies with white people because other
I
races
remember that.
are
You
dirtying
told me
our
that.
blood, and
Yeah.
it's just we have the more elite blood basically. And he was like, it's just being diluted, and soon all of the good blood's gonna be gone. And I was just sitting there like, sir, you know that my children are mixed. They're half Venezuelan, and that's my kids. Like, what? And he was like,
Right.
I'm not racist or anything. It's just a fact. It's just that our blood is better. We don't have all the
Wow.
diseases. We don't have. Starts defending this. And he's like, I don't care at all that they're not
Well, he
pure
ain't
blood.
racist.
Like, are we in Harry Potter? Why are we talking about pure blood? Like, it was so weird. And at the time, I was like, first of all, it's scary when you have like to stand up for what you believe in front of men because some men
Yeah.
are really scary. And I tend to like retreat and like get quiet and not say very much because it's scary to speak up. Now I think especially something like that, I'm pretty sure we would be yelling at each other. But
Yeah.
at the time, I literally just got quiet. I didn't say anything. I was just like, okay. And then we go back to the hotel room, and he kept talking about how he was so thirsty. And I'm like, well,
Mm-hmm.
there's cups right here. I'll get you a drink and you can have some water. He looks at me
Yeah.
straight in the eye. I don't know if an N word has drank out of that cup. And I was just like, what? Who am I with?
In your
Like,
eye? In
this,
your eye. Like, eye to
yeah.
eye.
He let those words come out of his mouth. And I was just seriously like,
Girl.
oh, and I used to always post pictures of us, like on my Snapchat and stuff. And he literally said, he's like, I've seen you hanging out with those black people. And I'm like, yeah, she's one of my best friends. Is that a problem? And I'm literally like, I'm in I know. I
Girl.
drove way down there. I can't just leave.
Girl.
So I
Right.
had to go to bed next to him that night. So awkward. I literally drove home the next day.
Girl.
I sobbed the entire, how long is that drive? Like maybe 4 hours?
Oh.
I just sobbed the whole way home because I really
Yeah.
thought that I was so in love with him. And I didn't even know
Oh.
him. Enough that he would make that many comments within that was within like 5 or 6
Yeah.
hours of me spending time with him.
Comfortably, like assuming
Yeah.
you're on the same length, wavelength as
Yeah.
him.
Like that's like
No.
KKK level to like
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
belief and talking about it. Like I could
Yeah.
not believe. I was
Girl.
so shocked. It was just like,
That's
so then I was
heartbreaking.
scared. I didn't
That's
really date
heartbreaking.
for like 6 months after that. I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
how do you know
traumatizing.
people? Yeah. And now, even still, I'm still traumatized from that. When I do dating profiles and stuff, I always make sure that I put a picture of me and you. Because I'm like, I'd rather just weed them out. I don't want
Nice.
anyone like that.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
still think about it every single time I create a profile. I think about
Wow.
that because that was,
Cringe.
yeah. And then
That's
I'm like, when you're
cringe.
laying there sleeping next to them and you know they think like that, like, who am I laying in this bed with? Like,
That's
what?
cringe.
It was
Yeah, and you
so
drove all
awful.
that way. Like, I'm just trying to imagine that. Like,
I was
girl.
so excited. I was driving there and I was like,
Oh,
by the time I leave, we're going to be official because we've spent more time and we already love
right.
each other. I was like,
Yeah.
so excited. And then,
Mm.
nope, he was it.
He's
He's
up.
still, actually, it's been a couple years since I've heard from him, but a couple years ago, he sent me a message and said, I still love you. Like, he's tried a few times. He tried to get me and my kids to move to Alaska.
Like, get
And I'm
out.
like,
No,
no.
you're not the vibe.
You have a 0% chance, sir. It's not happening. You scare me.
We're not.
But then it used to make me feel good though, because I used to not have very much self-confidence, so anyone giving me any attention felt like I was so happy because I didn't have attention for so long. It's with quite a few people, it hasn't taken much for me to be like, I love you.
It's like that sometimes. I've definitely met women like that. And I think sometimes just life, sometimes you meet people because obviously I've spent so many years dating and it feels like you've known them. I would meet some dudes and be like, damn, it's like I knew you in another life. Like, how are we
Yeah.
this close, this fast, this in sync and things? So I can see that and saying I love
Yeah.
you fast to someone because sometimes it's just so perfect. It seems like it links. At least you think it is,
It feels like
in
it.
that temporary. And in the beginning, you're like, oh, it's just like you're hitting and checking all the boxes, you think. And how is this possible? Kind of thing. I've
Yeah.
definitely been there. Outside of Sunny, I'm trying to think who I dated. Seriously, I think 3 Justins. There's a lot of Justins
I have
out
a
there.
story
Let me
about
just,
a
and
Justin
you got a
too.
Justin.
I'm gonna tell you about a Justin. He's one of the ones I'm naming, but yeah, I don't even know if you
Go,
know
you
my Justin
first.
story.
Tell me your Justin.
Well, mine is like this is the part where we talk about our warning to our women, okay? You have got to make good decisions when you're dating. You have got to be careful. It's easy
Yes.
when you get used to dating to like
Yeah.
not really think hard about the rules that we have in place for a reason, like letting people know where you are, not going to their house for like just the first time is not enough. It has to be longer
Yeah.
than that because you can put yourself in danger.
Ooh.
So, like, this was like the first year that I was separated. So, around the same time as Craig, who I just talked about. I don't know if I said his name. So, his name was Justin, and I had gone to his house the first time. It was literally like we hooked up. That was it. And then the second time, so I didn't mind going to his house because I wasn't in the dating phase. That's what I was going for. It wasn't a big deal. So I went over there once.
Yeah.
It was fine. Went over the second time, and it was very strange. First of all, he starts telling me that he can tell that I was just with someone else because their stuff is still inside of me. He's like, I can tell. And I'm like,
what?
That's not true. And he made me get in his bathtub and so that he could clean me out himself so that he knew that I was clean. this is not
No.
even the bad part. This is
Mm-mm.
normal compared to how this is about to go.
Girl.
So then I'm like, already I'm like, this is so strange. But
Yes.
then it turns out he gave me my first yeast infection. He was very large, and I had already slept with him once, and I was getting a yeast infection, and that's what it was. But I didn't know
Yeah.
that. It was my first one, and it was like the very beginning stages, so I
Yeah.
had no idea. But that's
Mm-hmm.
so it's not like he was like totally nuts, but that's what it was. So
Yeah.
cleans me out. Then we start doing our thing, and he keeps recording me with his phone, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
can you not? Like, I don't even know him, right? Like, this is the second
Yeah.
time. And then he like puts it away. He's like, okay, okay. And then like 20 minutes later, he's like, hey, so he worked for Vivid. And, or not
Mm-hmm.
Vivint. Yeah, like the solar panel people. I think it's called Vivint. I don't
Yeah.
know. But
Smart
yeah,
home. Yeah.
yeah. So they all live in the same complex because like the company buys
Okay.
it for them. So he's like, one of my friends that I work with wants to come by and grab something. Is it okay if he comes over? And he had like been hinting to things like it made me feel like he was trying to have him come over for a threesome. And I was like, I don't care if he comes over, but like nothing's happening. If he wants to grab something, that's fine.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
So this guy comes over and we decide we're gonna like make dinner. So we just all start cooking together. And then the guy looks at me, he's like, hey, thanks for that video, by the way. And I just look at him and he just like starts giggling. And he had told him that I told him to send it to him so that he would come over.
Girl.
So then I'm like so upset, and I didn't even say, I just kept cutting the food. I was like, whatever. I walked out on the balcony, and then Justin follows me out there, and he's like, he keeps trying to lift my shirt, and I keep pulling it down, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do anything with that guy here. I'm not. And he's like, well, I think that you're gonna have to, and starts trying to pull my shirt up more. And then the guy heard that, and he goes, I'm gonna go. And he grabbed his stuff and left. Like, thank God.
Thank goodness.
Because I feel like if he would have been on board, I would have been in trouble. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so immediately I'm like, I'm leaving too. So I go to grab my purse to leave, and he grabs my purse, and we are fighting. For me, like my keys were in it, my phone was in it. So I'm like literally sitting there, tug of war, fighting with this man to get my purse. And finally, he just like his hand slipped. He let go, and I like ran out the door and left.
Girl.
And then I get home, and he's texting me like crazy. And he's like, I know you went over to be with him. Starts blaming me that I left to go be with that guy. Even though when he was there, I was so against it. He's like, FaceTime me then, prove it. And I'm sitting in my room, and I was just like so tired of him texting over and over. I had not learned what a block button was, apparently. I don't know. But I FaceTimed him real quick and just showed him my room. I'm like, I'm home. Stop. And he's just screaming at me. He's like, I can't do this. I can't work with him anymore. I don't trust him. I'm putting in a request for a transfer tomorrow. What? And I was like, yeah, sure, you are. This what? His dating. So we were still connected on the dating app. And so in the dating app, I think it was POF, which is my first red. That's why it was an awful person. But so it updated like their location, and a week later it moved to Texas. He really did relocate to Texas, and he moved.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
No, I can't.
It was
he was certifiable.
Yeah, he was crazy. And he just like, I had already been there once. Like, it was the second time. Like, I usually feel safe by the second time. If I've seen someone once, then by the second time, I'm like, my guards are down. But, like, I legitimately could have had such a traumatic experience, and I got lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he started to make me, he kept sending me pictures of him and other women. Yeah, he was sending me pictures of, like, other girls giving him blowjobs and stuff. Like,
what is wrong with him? You had a crazy. Yeah. See, something up with Justin's. I don't know. Sorry if you're a good Justin out there. I
Maybe I should
apologize because the
pay
Justins
attention to
we
that.
run
Maybe I should be
into.
careful about the Justins.
Yes, I'm
um,
telling you.
while we're on the complete craziness, though, the story I told you I was going to bring up on here, when you went on a date with someone and they tried to get you to walk down to the river with them up in the mountain.
Yeah, yes. Girl, I was
You
gonna
have
bring
to
that
tell that
up.
story.
Like, he wasn't, yeah, he wasn't like my boyfriend. We weren't dating in that sense, but more casual, you know. And I met him through another mutual friend. And by now, I had kind of started coming offline because I had had some weird online experiences. And so I had kind of started moving, not 100%, but more where I was trying to like, definitely if I met you in person, you had the upper hand, like on that level.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had went to Reggae Fest and met him through a mutual friend who brought me to Reggae Fest. And he knew this guy. So I thought he was cool. Like he was chopping it up with the dude who I was friends with, you know, like cool, seemed so cool, flirting with me and stuff. He was good looking. So I'm like, and he was in a band himself. So I'm like, cool. You know, I'm into the band vibe, gave him my number. We started chopping it up, went on our first date to the Green Pig. That was one of my spots. I love going to the pig. And we were up on the balcony on the top. And I should have known then, you know, as far as red flags, but he seemed pretty cool. He was funny, all the things. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of feeling him for a second date. But what was weird about that date is his friend called on FaceTime or video time or whatever. And he's like, now keep in mind, this is our first date. And he's like, oh, yeah, like telling his friend all about me and like it was just weird. I don't feel like you tell your best friend about someone you're on a first date
Yeah.
in such depth,
Yeah.
especially as a man. I don't know. It just came off weird. Like he was
It's
going
nice
into
that
a
you talk
lot
to
of
them
depth.
afterwards. Like, if,
Yeah.
yeah.
If anything,
Yeah.
you know, like in front, like introducing type,
Oh, yeah,
that
that's
came
super
off
weird.
weird. Like, yeah, this is so and so, this is Nikki, and this is who I'm gonna be, you know, dating and stuff. Like, it came off kind of weird. It was odd.
He was
And he was in
confident.
another country, you know. And then the other thing that was kind of weird on that first date is he was talking about how he sends money to other countries to his family. Didn't say wives or anything, just said like family. Or I can't remember, it was so long. If it wasn't family, it might have been just different women, I think, but not wives. But it was like these women were his friends, I think is how he was saying it. And I'm like, that's a
Hmm.
little sus.
Yeah.
But I wasn't totally sure what to make of it. He was very charming. So I'm like, cool, we'll do date number two. And then that's when, yeah, it was a nightmare on date number two. He was supposed to pick me up on his motorcycle. I would not let him come to my house. I was really careful with that. So I met him somewhere and got on his motorcycle, and it was just weird right off top. Like he stopped, he wanted to get some drinks and we were supposed to go up the canyon. And so he stopped to get alcohol. I didn't really want anything, you know. And he's like pressuring me into buying some like liquor, excuse me, or beer or something at this place. I'm like, I really don't want nothing. He's like, pressure. I'm like, fine, I guess. Like, you know,
If
you're
you're gonna
buying
shove it
it.
down my throat.
So we bought like a couple beers and he like wanted to hold my hand and like I don't know if he was trying to put his arm around me. It was real possessive y. And all we did, like, this is our second date and we're walking into a grocery store. You don't need to be doing all that. Like,
Hmm.
calm down. You know?
Yeah.
So I wasn't feeling that. And then we get up to the canyon kind of late because he was dilly dallying with stuff like that. We stopped for dinner and then dinner kind of ran a little late and it started getting dark. It was dark by the time we left and cold, and he was really weird at dinner and I just wasn't feeling the vibe anymore. It was like he's a totally different guy. He was not the charming, you know. It just was off. I was like, ew, I'm not feeling this dude. Like I couldn't wait to leave. And so I was kind of telling him when it was over, like, okay, you know, can you just take me back to my car? And he was pressuring me again. He wanted to go up this canyon real quick, just canyon. this was the whole point. We were supposed to go past this lake and the whole little drive on his bike, and he just wouldn't take no for an answer. So I'm like, all right, fine, but it's getting late and it just needs to be like, go, like just drive, go. You take that route on the way back, not a we're stopping thing. So he's like,
Mhm.
okay. We get up there. This fool stops. He go down through the barriers because he got a bike, so he can like weave back into this area that's technically closed off, which was sketchy. I'm like, why
Yeah.
is he taking me to this weird
And I
closed
don't
area at
trust
like
someone
11
of like
o'clock?
sitting on a motorcycle going down through a canyon like that in a place that's like off the road. I don't trust them enough at that point to be driving on that. That's scary.
No, no. And so we went all around these barriers and he pulled up to the lake. Now it's almost midnight and pitch black because it's a shut down area. There's no ambient lights up in the mountain. You're in the mountains at a lake. It's dark.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to go. Like he stops his whole bike and stuff and gets off. I'm like, what are we doing, dude? Like trying to look at him like that. And he's like, oh, let's just go look at the water, whatever, whatever. No, I don't want to go down there, to the point where he was kind of like you and Justin, where it was like a tug of war. And
Yeah.
he was like pulling me down to the lake, trying to force me down to this lake. And I had to like really get kind of tough with him and buck up for him to leave me alone. Like, look. And I finally snatched my arm away and bucked up, like, I am not going, and showed some grit. And he is like, all right. And he goes down to the lake, and I'm just watching him. And I don't know what he does. He's just really weird down at the lake for a minute. And then he comes back up. And then he's like, all right, because I'm trying to rush him. Like, can we go now? Like, are you done?
Yeah.
Gazing at this lake at midnight that I told you I didn't want to stop at. It was not romantic, nothing. No, I didn't want to stop. I don't know what he was thinking, you know, ignoring everything I told him. And so I was like putting my helmet on, and he's like, oh, let me help you buckle the helmet. It was the half helmet that like buckles. And he's like, oh, your neck is so beautiful. Like I could just like that, like across my neck.
Oh. Oh. And you're just like, get me home.
Yeah, my heart was pounding. I did not, because everything that ran through my head at that point is like, who knows I'm here. You only told your friends so much. They didn't know this exact location. If
Yeah.
he cut your throat and throw you in the water, you know,
That's so scary. Especially it's scary
and
if
I
you like at midnight trying to drag you down to a lake in the mountain in the middle of the night. That is so scary.
and no one was around. I couldn't scream for help, and like all these things are going through my head. Like, okay, and he's big. I'm like, if I try to like take him on, he's definitely gonna overpower me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, big ass dude. And so I was just really frozen in fear. It was really traumatizing. I
It's
remember
scary.
just praying, praying, praying that he would actually take me back to my car, and he did.
Mm-hmm.
And he let me go, and he didn't ever do anything, and we never contacted. I don't know if I blocked him or what, but I never heard from him again.
Yeah.
And I remember coming to work and telling all of you about it because it was that traumatizing.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I remember you coming into work talking about it, and I didn't even know you were on a date. And I was just
Yeah,
like, it sounds so. It was awful. You were so scared. You really were traumatized. It's easier to
yeah,
talk about it now, but in the moment, like you were
yeah,
scared.
yeah.
So we've
Well,
learned a
who
few
does
things.
that? Like,
Yeah.
who? Why would you be like, oh, I could just what?
I cannot. I cannot. They just straight up, both of them straight up threatened us
Yeah,
without even
yeah.
trying to hide the threat. They just
Nope.
were comfortable saying it, which is terrifying.
Yeah,
So we've learned a
yeah,
few things. The second date, be careful. It's scary. That just because they're
yes,
good on the first doesn't mean anything. We don't go to their
yes,
houses. We don't go to places
yes,
where there's nobody around.
yes,
And we stay away from Justin's.
yes. Don't let them know where you live either.
Yeah.
Like, really try to keep it in a neutral spot. Ain't nothing wrong with a hotel hookup. I've done that
Yeah.
before, and you're in neutral ground that you can get away from. You're not stuck at his place where he has the upper hand, or he's at your spot. Now he can stalk you. Because I've had some stalkers in that same year, not too
Oh
long
yeah.
after that incident with him. This guy in my neighborhood was going around, and they're not supposed to solicit. I was in a gated neighborhood, and he still snuck in and was soliciting for vacuums or something. I don't remember. Cute little young guy. He was actually kind of good looking, young guy. And so I gave him my number because he was cute and stuff. No, should not have ever. He turned into a whole like instant stalker. Like the second he left, he was texting me and calling me and wanting to come over, and randomly like he would show up at my place, like all this, or he'd be texting me talking about he's about to just show up, and it was a whole. So I was traumatized that year. I think that's when I did finally, between those two, I think that's when I was like, I'm just not dating online.
Yeah.
I'm not. You got to go through not person, because I met the first guy in person. I was like, I'm just. You're gonna have to go through some rigorous hoops for me.
Mm-hmm. I just barely downloaded dating apps a few days ago when I was trying them and I deleted them quickly, but this is just reminding me I'm not doing that. I'm not. It's scary. You just never know who you're with. And at least when you meet someone in person, like you can feel their vibe, but even still, your story, you met in person and they were mutual friends. Like that makes me feel so safe. And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything because you do not know these people that you're with.
Yes.
It's
Yes. I
scary.
think giving it time is one of the main things. Like even being with Jensen, he had been burned a lot of times, and he used to always say that. He's like, I ain't moving in with nobody until we've at least been through like 4 seasons together. Like he would
Yeah.
say that a lot. And it came up within our first year. We were gonna move in. And I
Mm-hmm.
think he was gonna do it, but we both decided let's just wait. And
Mm-hmm.
it is new, and things you don't, you think you know somebody for so long. Everything needs time. The more time, the better in different situations.
Yeah.
You know, you can't stress that enough. I like that he would say different seasons, because yes, everybody is different. When they hot, when they cold, when
Mm-hmm.
they,
It's true.
you need to get through a full year, see folks under pressure, because anybody can put on that good face for so long. Male, female, it don't matter. Like people are good at putting up a front for however long,
Yeah.
and the longer that you give it, they can only hold that front up if it's an actual front for so long, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and just really trying to push through honeymoon phase. I think people tend to assume it's only like 1 to 4 weeks, when really it could be months in a
Oh yeah.
honeymoon phase before you really see who that person is, at their
Absolutely.
core.
I was
So
really proud of Jensen for that. I mean, you too, but the circumstances when you guys were considering it, it would have been the easy thing to do. Just moving together. It made
mhm.
sense. You were there every single day. Like it was very easy to just do that. But he was so strong in like what he knew was right to make sure that you
Yeah.
were right, to make sure that you both went into it feeling really good about living together. And it all worked out
Yeah.
so perfectly. Like it's hard in those
Yes.
moments when it's the easy thing to do and you're choosing to do the harder thing, but you know that that's the best
Mhm.
thing to do. I was proud of you guys
Mhm.
for that, to come into
Thank
that
you.
together. Yeah.
It is, and thank you for saying that. It was hard for me. I'm not gonna say my feelings weren't kind of hurt initially,
Mm-hmm.
but that's part of what you practice. Don't take things personally, And we came to it. It's not that he said he wouldn't do it. It was a mutual decision, but I knew where
Right.
he stood too. And so, yeah, I was a little bit in my feels about it,
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, like,
Well, because
and
it
you're in
was,
that honeymoon, you're
yeah.
like, we're gonna be great. Of course, we're gonna be great. We can just move in, like, it's fine, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Is
Well,
it fine?
it's also when you're at someone's house every single day, but you're still paying rent, which is not cheap. And then it's
Yeah,
like, it feels like you're just throwing away your money. But moving in because
yeah,
of money is not the right reason. It was the right thing to do not
nope,
to do it, but it's also hard when you literally, you were never home.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was
But
good.
it was. I'm glad, because by the time we did do it, a full year later, which by that time was like a year and a half into our relationship, we both were really sure. And it wasn't like, if, yeah, he was going to do it, but then you're going to start feeling some type of way, especially
Mm-hmm.
when it's hard.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't want to move in. See, that bitch made me move in. Like, you start
Yeah.
resenting, in your
Yeah.
head. And I didn't ever want to create that between us, and definitely not with him, feeling like, damn, if she didn't want to save money, we could have just waited. I told her to wait, and now.
Yep.
And so I'm like, it's fine. You're right. I'll bite the hard bullet. It's not like I'm already independent. It's not like I can't do it, you
Hmm.
know. Um, just get out of your feelings and understand the reason and the benefits of it. And it was honestly so much better when we
Yeah.
did. And he was so much more gracious with it and helping. And he would write me all these love letters about moving in, leading up, like, oh, we're about to move in together. It's going to be great. And it was a lot better doing it that way, you
Yeah.
know?
It feels more
Yeah.
exciting. It's hard to have
Yeah.
patience for stuff like that. You know me, I am not patient. I'm like, I want what I want now, and it better happen for me. But I'm trying. I'm trying to be patient. That's when the good things come.
Yes, all things, all
Yeah.
things. But that was a
So,
really, and then my Justins, ooh, I dated one, two, three. The first Justin, were they all in music too? One Justin was a rapper, one Justin was a drummer, I think, and one I think was a bass player. They were all different. I dated a lot of
interesting.
musician
Yeah.
dudes.
You have dated a lot of musician dudes.
I was about that life.
Yeah. I mean, it's
But it
hot.
just didn't. Yeah, they were actually kind of okay. It just didn't. The first Justin, that was like the drummer, he took me to California. Matter of fact, when you did my slideshow for my birthday, one of those pictures was on that trip with him when I went to LA. And he was actually pretty good. He wasn't all a bad guy. I just think
Is this the
we were
Justin that I know?
misaligned. I don't think you ever knew that,
Okay.
Justin.
Because I was like,
No.
no, he's not that good.
That other Justin went to Cali too. I forgot they
Yeah, that's
both
why I
had
thought you were
Cali
talking about
connections.
him.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
No, this Justin, and he was kind of bald. You didn't know he wore
Yeah.
glasses. He's a little nerdy looking, little
I only
receding
knew one
hairline a little
Justin.
bit, but he was cute. He was sweet. I liked him. I think we just, I don't know. I was different too then. And sometimes maybe I would just cut people off and not really be that forgiving, is what I would say maybe kind of happened with him. Not that it couldn't have worked, but I was just in this mode where I had been so burned for so long that if I saw red flags, I'm
Yeah.
the one chopping throats like quick, you know.
Yeah.
And so I just think anything I wasn't unhappy, I think I just didn't want to compromise in things, so we didn't work out. But he wasn't totally a bad guy. It just kind of didn't work. And then rapper Justin, he was a serial cheater.
Mm.
So yeah, he sucked. Did I date four Justins? I dated two black
What is with
Justins
the
and two white
Justins?
Justins.
That's crazy. That is
Yes, I
crazy.
forgot about that other, because this, and he was in music too. He was also a rapper. No, one Justin was a rapper, one Justin was a singer. Both black Justins. One I worked with, and they both were serial cheaters. I think that's why I tend to forget about one. They were kind of similar.
Mm.
But the one that was the rapper was always on the road and just always had women. He was pretty big. He was doing tours. He's already on Spotify. Like, he was doing things back then, and he had a lot of attention of women. And he already had like a baby and a baby mama drama. And it was just like, I think not as much cheating with him as like you're on the road and got all this other women kind of pulling your attention
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing, and then you're prioritizing your daughter. Like, I just didn't feel like a priority a whole
Yeah.
lot, I think, with that. And then other singer, that was singer Justin. I don't know, one of these Justins, musical Justin. He was singer Justin with the kid. Rapper Justin I worked with at one of these colleges before I came to Strayer, and he was definitely a serial cheater, which I suspected. And I had got Eileen to trick him, and that's how I caught him one time. She made little fake, the
I love
classic
that
little
you did that.
catfish. She made that
Mm-hmm.
little account and was like reaching out and like flirting, and I'm watching the whole thing come down. And he was biting that bullet. He went for everything she threw, and I'm sitting there with her, like we're literally doing this together. So, yeah, he walks into a whole trap.
Oh,
And
I'm
my
trying
claws came out.
so
We
hard.
worked together. It was like,
I'm trying so hard to remember now, like, to walk away. Like, I would never, I used to always do that. I would, like, try to catch them or, like, search through their phones or, like, but now I'm at the point where it's just like, if you feel like you have to do that, you should not be dating that person. And I'm starting to realize every time I feel
yes,
like I'm starting to spiral, starting to feel a little crazy, it's not that I'm crazy,
yes.
it's that this person is not aligned with what I need. And he's not giving me what I need,
Tell it, girl.
and I need to get out. Because I'm not crazy, but sometimes
Tell
they
it.
spark that
Tell
switch.
it.
I'm like, oh, it's coming. I
They
gotta get out.
do.
Yeah.
Especially if it's someone that garners a lot of attention, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on how they handle that attention, it can make you a little crazy,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And
And
then
I think I
other,
do well because I've dated people who get a lot of attention. I think I do well because I'm confident. As long as I'm confident in us, if you make me feel
yes,
good, there could be hundreds of women after you all the time and it doesn't phase me. But if you're not
yes,
making me feel good, there could be one woman and I will lose my shit.
you get crazy. You get a little
Yes.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it was like dating those Justins. And then the last Justin, you know, that Justin very well. And he was
Mm-hmm.
just toxic all around, on again, off again
Yeah.
as well. But I want to say I loved him. I grew up with this Justin, so I have love for him. As far as a definition of what love is in that time, yes, I loved him with everything in me because I had a different definition of what I thought love
Right.
should be in a romantic relationship, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, younger me, I define romantic love very differently, and that's what I thought, you know, it should kind of be. And it was very hard with him. It was hard with all of them. And I never understood that. Like, why is this hard? I used to just think that to myself, like, God, is this just love? I guess this is what it's supposed to be. Like, love is hard, and you're supposed to be patient, and you're supposed to be kind and forgiving, and not. No, it's not. I'm here to tell y'all that's not love.
Yeah. It should
On
feel
the other end
easy.
of things, where love is so easy, and I finally found something that's aligned. But when I was in it, I loved that last like love the other Justins. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
love on that level. Yeah, I said I love you and stuff, but this one I was just like all in.
Yeah,
He
you
was the
were.
first one, not even Sunny, nobody since my husband. He was the first one, and really it hasn't been anyone until Jensen, you know, on that level like that, where I just loved and gave him too much because he was not a good guy. He was very self-serving and very self-centered, and whew, he didn't know how to love. He used to tell me that, and he knew that, and he had this song that he loved that's like, teach me how to love. And I thought it was so romantic. No, I don't need to teach you. You need to know how to love. I ain't here to
Yes.
be nobody's mother. That's the energies that I'm trying not to be in right now. Why I gotta show you? Let's show each other and teach you how to love. Like, no. And
Yeah. Our
I really used to
standards,
think that was it.
yeah, our standards were just so low at that time. I remember we were doing one of the paint nights at your apartment with Felicia, and I was dating Bobby at the time. And so I'm talking to Bobby, you're talking to Justin, and Bobby was like make fun of how I was painting, like in a nice, funny way. But and
Mm-hmm.
then Justin was like, "Oh my gosh, baby, that's so beautiful. You're doing such a good job." And just like
Mm-hmm.
going off about how your painting was. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love him. He's so nice." And I took a picture of it with my phone and I like put it on my Snapchat and I was like, "This is so cute. This is how men should be treated." All he did was compliment your painting. Like, what? How did we make
Yeah.
this a big deal that it was so cute? And I was like, "Look, Bobby, this is how other people talk to them and you're being mean to me." Like,
I
that
think
was
with
the standard.
him, he spoke. The problem I think with a lot of these relationships is once they learn my love languages, which I didn't speak so much in terms of love language, but if they just kind of figured out like this girl likes gifts and she likes time, and that would be, it seems like, their answer to all things. Really, if I looked at a lot of my previous, including my marriage, I feel like my ex-husband felt like I should just give her all the things, all because she wants them. I want to just make her happy and pedestal and spoil, to your own detriment or to our detriment, right? Or whatever it is, or you're not giving me the actual love and other things that I need. It's not just gifts. That's one of my love languages. And yeah, it might rank top, but it's like we would get in these relationships where that's all they wanted to do was give me things and like not give me the love. And so Justin was very good
Yeah.
at giving me all the things and spoil, and that's my love language. So I equated it to love, but it didn't overrun his selfishness. The times he would put me down just as much as he would compliment me and be like, I remember we were at the gym, and you know me, like I'm charismatic. I talk to anybody. It's part of my human design. People are drawn to me,
Yeah.
right? And so I was waiting on him so that we could go, and I was talking to somebody, like an old man, not even anybody, and laughing. And he's standing over there with the sour face, like just looking at me, like waiting. And then finally we left, and I'm like saying bye, hugging the guy or whatever. He's like, "You over there blabbing your gums? We could have. I'm hungry," and this, and like started a whole fight talking about I'm blabbing and yapping my gums and stuff. What?
He was
And
ridiculous.
we had a whole fight. We were supposed to be working out. We were supposed to feel better after this workout and in tune. Like,
Yeah. No, dude, he treated you like crap. I hate him, actually.
yeah,
I do not
he
like
was
that
not
man.
a vibe. He
He,
was not.
I can never forgive what happened like that night when you called me in the middle of the night because this man, you guys got in a fight, which you can talk about how much you want to talk about that, but, and that he kicked you out of the car. It was like after midnight. I think it was like closer to 1 in the morning, downtown in an alley
Mm-hmm,
with your phone
mm-hmm,
at 2%. And I just remember you calling me and saying, like, you explained to me where you are, but you can't send me your location because your phone's about to die. I can't call you when I get there because your phone will be dead. And I'm
mm-hmm.
downtown driving around looking for you, looking in all of the alleys, and it was so scary. And then I pick you
Yeah.
up, and he even had your keys to your house, so you couldn't even go in your house, and you had to come and sleep at my house because you couldn't go home.
Mm-hmm.
He literally put you in danger, like true
Yeah.
danger. And
Yeah.
I that's when, like, we talked about this in the other episode when you came into the Christmas party and he was with you. It was right after that, and I was just like, this man is not here with you right now. I could not. I That is
Yes.
so messed up.
It was. That was a really low, and honestly, one of my lowest moments in my life was that relationship. And I don't know, again, to this day, I can't say I fully understand why, other than I don't know why. I just gave him my all. I'm not sure why him and why I loved him so hard and what exactly that dynamic was, because as we just got done saying, usually men were my accessory, And
Mm-hmm.
it's like I was more the dominant, and in that it was like I gave so much and let myself be so low, like that
Yeah.
time, where I'm out in the middle of the night, and I still went back to him. I mean, it might have been the next day, but I went back,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like who goes back and tries to work it out after things like that?
Yeah.
And that was a common, like I said, at the gym that time, we ended up in a big old fight. We couldn't do anything. And that's how it was with Sunny a lot too. The only difference is I was more dominant in the Sunny, but it's like we couldn't do anything. We couldn't see what we're gonna have for dinner without it being a fight. Get out
Mm-hmm.
my face. This should not be hard,
Yeah.
like, and that's what it was like with that Justin. And I remember the day he left, because he left me. I'll admit that. And I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. And I was
Sometimes
at
that's what it
work.
takes.
Yeah. And I don't remember if we had started the argument before work or what. And it carried on. I just remember arguing all day at work. And he was threatening to leave. And sure enough, when I came home, his car was already basically packed and he was leaving. And I just broke down and I was crying. It felt like someone ripped my heart totally out of my chest and like was stabbing it and grinding it and putting it in a blender. Like it hurt so bad. And I was like begging him, begging. I've never begged a man for
Mm-hmm.
anything. I've never had to, and never will again. But in that moment and in that situation, I'm like, please don't leave, like begging. And he was so haughty toddy and he left. And I was like suicidal. Like it was bad. I plunged into a deep depression
Mm-hmm.
fucking with that man because I was just so far in. And I remember Eileen calling him and forcing him to call me because she thought I was going to hurt myself.
Oh.
And he was already on the road. And I remember just like crying on the phone and like begging him to come back, like, please, I'll do anything. And he's like, nope, nope, hottie toddy. And he didn't. And I was down for a long, which you saw me through. You were there
Mm-hmm.
through that and you helped me to get back up, which is why when I let him back in my life, I know I was like, ooh, Brittany ain't never gonna,
Yeah.
she ain't gonna have this. I was scared to walk up in there.
Well,
Let you
trust
see
me,
it.
I've been scared so many times to tell you. Guess what I did?
I'm like, ooh, Brittany gonna have my
Yep.
throat if she sees.
Yeah. I usually was pretty calm with like whoever you came around, brought around. I was just like whatever, but with him, it would like make me just like fuming. Like
Because
man.
it was like fire, like a
Mm-hmm.
five-story fire. It was just really
Yeah.
like explosive with us, whether it was passion or whether it was anger. Everything was just really like gas and matches
Mm-hmm.
with me and him. And ultimately, when I did heal, it took me a long time and a long time to not keep letting him. He would show up on retrograde and I kept letting him back.
Yeah.
Every
Every
retrograde, that shit is
retrograde.
real.
I,
Yes.
I would know.
So
I
I
would like see something that retrograde was coming, and I'm like, oh, jeez, here goes Nikki.
Yes, and I would entertain it for a
Mm-hmm.
while, but finally, when I was fully 100% healed from him, and I was able to finally close that door, it felt so good and
So
so
good.
vindicating. And then he did that; he showed up for that Christmas thing
Yeah,
out the blue,
I was just
like
gonna
a
say
year or
that.
two ago. And I'm already in a relationship with Jensen, and he shows up. I think I had never blocked him. Now I actually have after that last, but he could show up and I allowed it because I never really like blocked or changed my number or anything.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh yeah, reaching out. I just wanna I got you something. I don't know. He was just like sliding in just enough, like giving me just enough to be curious. He's like, I need to talk to you about something and I just need to say my piece. And I'm like, fine, I guess I can give you that to say your piece, you know. And we had this conversation and he knows exactly how I felt. I let Justin because I couldn't wait to let it rip, for everything that he had did to me and what he put me through. And he apologized. He kept taking me through all these stories. Then he's talking about he want to do this festival of the trees because we had planned that when we were together, and it was something I wanted to do for my father. At the time, my mother was still alive, so it was just like, oh, I wish I could do a tree dedicated to my dad, and it was something we had kind of dreamed about. That he suddenly thought he was going to be like a knight on a chariot
Yeah.
coming in,
It's
and
manipulative
I wasn't
him
sure.
to come back for that reason. It's manipulative. He knows how important it was to you.
Very,
And in any other
very,
circumstance, you wouldn't have given him the time of day. But that was something you really wanted for
very.
your dad. Super manipulative.
Yes. And he wanted to get back in, I'm sure. And
Mm-hmm.
I agreed. And Jensen knew the whole thing. And I met with him and I was up front with both gentlemen, and he came all the way in town from Cali and he spent about $4,000. That shit is not cheap,
Mm-hmm.
Festival of the Trees. And so he spent some dough Because he's like, get whatever you want. I'm like, okay. So I'm just ordering and he's just buying, you know? And girl, we met.
Mm-hmm.
By the end, I think we only were together for one day, like actually together. And I knew just in that day, like when I first met him, it seemed fun. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe we can be friends. And like, you know, it was like reminiscent of kind of our good times. By the end of that day, at each other's throats, at each
Yep.
other's. I'm like, this is why. And I told him, only this time I was strong enough to tell him about himself to his face. And I did, and gave him exactly the what for.
Yeah.
And he couldn't say nothing about it. And I left him. He's so dumb. He gave me a whole bag of paraphernalia, drug paraphernalia, talking about give it to my son. I'm like, this is for me, bitch. He gave me a whole bag because he came from Cali. So he had
Yeah.
all the good. After I told him off, after I gave him the what for, and when we were departing, he's like, hey, well, tell your son this is from me. No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'll take it. He don't
Another
care nothing about
manipulative
you.
thing. And I remember you saying, like, how his energy felt around you because you've grown and changed so much and you're so happy and living like a peaceful life with Justin or Justin, Jensen. And so when you saw Justin, it was like it felt gross to you and you could feel that. And
Yeah.
it's in the time when you were with him, you didn't know and you kept going back. But then once you grow, like we look back, we have to just learn from these people. And now you would
Yeah.
never get in that situation again.
Yes. And I think that's why it didn't last more than a day because now I knew so much what I didn't want and what his energy really was like. And so I was super in tune and I was super like, I'm going to speak up and you're not going to make me feel some type of way,
Good for you.
ever again. And it felt good. I felt so vindicated given
Yeah.
what he had put me through just to know, yeah, because he was admit his ultimate thing, he wanted me back.
Yeah.
I know that
Absolutely.
you're not getting me back. You're still married, first of all, which I didn't know when we were together. He was married and separated. That was a whole part of the mess that he was hiding and stuff. And he left me. When he left me, he went back to his wife,
Yeah.
which I ultimately figured out. And so I'm like, where do you hear? You up here spending all this money on your business account because he's an entrepreneur now too, like probably so your wife doesn't see it, like you're putting it on your business and you're still with her. No, I don't want nothing to do with that or
Yeah.
you. And that's after that I blocked him on everything. He can't contact me again. He'd have to go through some hoops to try to find me.
Makes me
Like,
so happy. Yeah, he's ugh. We don't like Justin.
mm-mm. I thought it was all J names. I'm like, maybe I just can't date a J.
Yeah.
But Jensen proved me wrong.
He did. I was thinking about J names today. I'm glad you mentioned that because I was like, maybe I need to stay away from J names. But Jensen's great. He's our
Yeah,
J name redemption.
just specifically Justin. Don't
Yeah.
find any more Justins. They don't seem to
Yeah.
work.
I'll be careful of that. um yeah, so after Craig, like the first person I dated after that was Bobby. And that's like
Mm,
this chapter of my life is called love bombing.
mhm,
And he he lives in St. George and he would come down and we actually somehow ended up friends on Facebook and he messaged
mhm.
me on Facebook and that's how we started talking. But his family lives in Salt Lake, so he would come down to Salt Lake all the time with his daughter. And so the only way for us to meet was if we like did like a play date for our kids, went to a park, and we met there. And so I was just like, okay, because we also have mutual friends, which made me feel safe. And he couldn't like he was traveling with his daughter. We couldn't get time apart. So I took my kids, so they met him right away. And it wasn't anything like dating. They just thought they were going to hang out with this girl who didn't have friends in Salt Lake because she's from St. George. So the week he was here, we hung out with them a ton. And we went to classic skating where they also have bounce houses. And when the kids went inside one of the bounce houses, he kissed me, and my daughter peeked her head out to say something to me right when he kissed me.
Oh shit.
And I was mad. She left. She immediately ran to the other kids, told them. And then Addison, my youngest, she was like maybe 6 at the time. And she came out and immediately started like reaching up for him and having him hold her. Like instantly, that man was her dad. It was
Yeah.
wild to see. And it's her
Oh.
dad got married really quickly after we got divorced. And I mean, he was in a relationship within like 2 months. And so in her mind, like that becomes your step parent because that's all she had known. She didn't know that there was like dating. She was too young. So
Yeah.
I was very upset about that. And he came back within a month. He came back a couple times and we spent like multiple nights. So we had probably like 10 or 11 nights that we spent together, all of us. And it was like super quick, super serious. And he told me he loved me within 3 weeks. And then I was going up to visit him for the first time. And he wants to go on a hike to Angel's Landing. You know what Angel's Landing is, right?
That's that dangerous one.
Yeah. You have to like hold on to a chain when you're going up. Like it's a hard hike. And I had never been on a hike before. When I was 12 years old, I went on a hike to Donut Falls, which is like a tiny little hike. It was with my church group. It was not a real hike. And I was 12. I've never been on another hike. This man, okay, so we're out there, we're gonna go hike Angel's Landing. And I had been like walking on the treadmill with like the incline way up. I probably did it like 5 times. I was not prepared for this hike. So I go, and first thing, he fills our, like, we have like the hydration backpack things, and he fills them with water, but like with water from the tub that's like not super cold. And it's like warm. I'm going hiking. I want cold. Like when I fill mine, I pour ice into it and then I fill it with water because I need cold water. So first mistake. Then he's taking forever to get ready and go. So we end up going and getting to the hike in Zion's at like noon. It was like April, middle of the day, in the middle of, and that park is not like the hikes in Salt Lake. There's like trees and like you can stay cool. No. That was out in the open, and the very first part of the hike is the, what are those things? The switchbacks? Yeah, and there's a lot of them. So I'm like dying of heat, and I get heat stroke like easy. I can be driving in my car too long and get heat stroke and I get really, really sick. So I don't do well in the sun at all. And so I'm going up these switchbacks, and he's just flying ahead of me. Like, he does not care that he's there with me. And I was on this hike just to be with him. I don't hike. I just want to be. So I'm, like, trying to get up these switchbacks, dying. I am absolutely dying. I get up to the very end of the switchbacks, and there's, like, the first time there's a little bit of shade. So I stopped. My face is beet red. I didn't feel tired like hiking. I didn't feel tired like exhausted that way. I wasn't having a hard time breathing. It was literally just the sun. So I sat in that shade for like probably 10 minutes. And then finally I walk around the corner, and he was literally just around the corner of where I was. And he's just sitting there with like 4 women just talking and laughing. And I felt so embarrassed because then I know, like, not only is he sitting there flirting with them, but also I look so ridiculous because I literally sat in that shade for at least 10 minutes. So they've been there for like maybe 15 minutes, and then I finally come up, and like we're standing there talking, and he was like concerned about me because my face was so red. And so he's like, I think we should just go back down. And I was like, yeah, because at that I didn't feel like I needed to. I felt like I would be fine because I finally got past the switchbacks. But I was so mad and so embarrassed that I was just like, yeah, let's go. And then the whole way down, like, I'm grumpy. He's grumpy because he didn't get to the top of Angel's Landing. And we're just like, whatever. So we enjoy the rest of our weekend that I spent up there. And then I drive home. I literally, while I was there, asked my kid's dad if he would be willing to move to St. George if I moved out there to be with him. And their dad said yes. And like literally I had talked to my ex-husband about moving to St. George to be with this man.
Wow.
And I got home and he ghosted me. Didn't hear from him. And I was just like, what in the heck? It was so strange. He told my kids he was going to marry me. Like, how do you get so attached and like do all of that and then just ghost me? Like, seriously? What? And all of this happened within 1 month. Like, it was the love bomb of all love bombs. And then that next weekend, or no, not even like a day later, he makes a post on Facebook and he's like, anyone want to hike with me to Angel's Landing so I can actually make it to the top? At least 100 women comment on this post and they're all like, we want to go. And so that Saturday, he posts a picture of him and a girl at the top of Angel's Landing together.
Girl,
I was
he
like,
is cracky.
I was so upset. And then we ended up talking again. I saw him a couple more times. He didn't even remember that he had ever told me that he loved me. Because I mentioned one time, I was like, I was in love with you and you were such a jerk. And he's like, oh my gosh, you've never said that before. And I just looked at him and I pulled up my text and I put it in his face. And I'm like, no. Like, how do you not remember who you've said I love you to? I've said it to 3 men in my life.
Wow.
Like, how? And then he came to dinner with me and my family because his mom passed away. This was like, I was already seeing Chad at this point, but me and Chad had like one of our breaks. And he comes down and I wanted to spend time with him because I felt bad. His mom just died. So he comes to dinner with my family. I told my family I'm not dating him. He's having a hard time. His mom just passed, so he's coming. My family loved him. He loved my family. He's like, I want you to come to my family's on Christmas Eve and spend the Christmas Eve with my family. And I was like, okay, cool. So I made my plans. I told my family, like, we scheduled our Christmas parties different days so that I was free on Christmas Eve. And like 2 days before Christmas Eve, I'm like, I haven't heard from him. This is weird. And I look at his social media and he posted with another girl. I love you so much. Like, and she was at Christmas Eve with his family. And I'm like, what in the heck? And then after one of the times that I had gone to visit him, this was like probably a month before the Christmas thing, maybe 2 months. He told me, he was talking to me about how like I'm his dream girl. He wants to marry me, all this. And I was just like, that's so dumb. I was just so over it. I was using him as a distraction at that time from someone else. And then I see him comment on, like respond to a comment on one of his posts that a girl posted. And he was like, this is why I'm going to marry you. And like literally a day later. So I texted him and I'm like, do you just say that to everyone? Like, what in the heck?
It was not a vibe.
So, no.
He's not genuine. Like, obviously none of this means anything and you just throw it out like it's candy.
Yeah.
Like, there's no authenticity to any of this that you're saying.
If someone is throwing it all out there that quickly, like that's, and I didn't know. This is like the third guy I've ever dated in my entire life. So it felt so good because love bombing, when someone's that crazy about you that quickly, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it was that easy. And I just found the person I'm going to be with. Like, thank God it wasn't. The sex was not good. One time I was over there and he was like, we were talking about how we just aren't ever going to work. And he was like, sexually, we're super compatible. It's super good. But like realistically, and in my mind, I was like, are we? Like, no, we're not. It's not good at all. He actually, the first time we slept together was when I went to St. George, right when he ghosted me, that visit at his house. That was the first time. And he was like super against anything before marriage. And so the next morning we went to breakfast and he was like devastated that we slept together. And I, like, he made me feel so bad. And I was just like, I didn't try to, like, I would have been fine waiting. I didn't do anything. Yeah. But, yeah, he just made me feel so awful. Dude. Yeah. It was so awful. So now I'm like, but again, just like learning from every person. Now if someone gets like that in the beginning, like unless it's like really deep conversations, I have gotten really attached quickly, but it's been like very deep and very real and not just surface like promising things.
Yeah. I don't believe in that no sex before marriage thing.
Oh, absolutely
like,
not.
You need to test it out, make sure, give that car a test drive, because ain't nobody trying to make no vows and then you stuck with somebody that ain't satisfying
for the rest of your life. And like, they can like, you can work together, you can like get better at that and like make it work out. But sometimes if there is not chemistry and it's like, if they're like flapping like a fish out of water, they do not belong in your life.
Remember Pete? Pete was bad at sex. I saved him in my phone when we broke up as Bad Sex P.
I love that. I started putting all of the guys that I've dated or talked to or whatever, they have like the little graveyard emoji. Like the I changed that. I changed their name to the graveyard emoji, so I don't know who any of them are.
I
Like,
love
I
it.
don't even have Chad's number because he's just one of the graveyards. I don't know. I couldn't reach out to
Good.
him if I wanted to, which I don't.
I love that
But
actually.
yeah. So then now if they text me, I'm just like, sorry, you're in my graveyard. I don't know who you are.
Yeah, and it makes them feel dumb, which I
Yeah.
love. I
Yeah.
love shit like that because they're like, ooh, thinking they were all special to you. You're
Mm-hmm.
like,
No.
I don't know who I'm talking to. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then,
Sorry, I've moved on.
yeah, it's the best feeling. And then 2 months after Bobby, I met Chad. The Chad thing.
Chad.
We don't like Chad. We don't like my behavior with Chad. So this one turned into a 5-year situationship that was just sucked. It was so good for like a month. And then we got in an argument. He said he couldn't do it because of something that I did that it was so stupid. I'll say it. So he leaves. This was like maybe 2 weeks into us talking, and he had to go to California for a business trip. So he goes to St. George first. That's where his sister lives. And he's like working from her house and doing all that before going to California. And I look on Tinder because at the time I hadn't deleted it yet. But we both had said we don't use Tinder anymore. We're turned off our profile. Like, we're not using it. But I pull mine up and it says that he's in St. George. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't update unless you open the app. And he told me he deleted his. I didn't say I deleted mine. So I questioned him about that. And he's like, no, I don't have it. It's not even on my phone. It's completely deleted. I don't know how it could possibly update that I'm in St. George. Mm-hmm. You mean to tell me it's deleted off of your phone and somehow magically it knows exactly where you are?
Right.
Like,
yeah,
you're lying. And then another girl had been commenting on one of his lives because he was a clothes salesman and he did lives. And it was very clear that, like, he knew her. And I looked at her, like, profile and she lived in Utah. And she was cute. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that he also is talking to her.
Yeah.
Which in the beginning, like, that's just how it isn't a huge deal except for the fact that he lied about it. He still to this day insists that nothing ever happened with them and at the time she was married, but it's not true.
Yeah, he lied.
Yeah, I also, like, years later saw that he did sent her a Venmo request and it said in the notes for a good time. And I'm like, you don't Venmo people that you don't know. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so then he goes to California, comes back, and I just felt weird about all of that. I didn't, like, fully trust it, and so I got on Tinder one day because I was like, am I being naive and just, like, putting all of my effort into him when I should be still, like, talking to people and, like, see where it goes? So I download Tinder for literally 30 minutes. I didn't even, like, I connected it to my Facebook, so the pictures that it chose were just, like, what it pulled up for Facebook. I put no effort. I didn't write anything. I just swiped a little bit, and then I realized, like, no, I'm really interested in him. I really like him. So I deleted it. Within an hour of, like, creating it, it was deleted. And then Chad texts me, and he's like, so I don't want to beat around the bush. I saw that you got on Tinder. Let's just end things here. Like, I'm not interested. And I'm just like, how did you see that I was on Tinder when I literally had it deleted within 1 hour? If I had stayed on it, I would have told him that I was back on Tinder because I wasn't sure what we were doing and we weren't in a relationship yet. But I deleted it, so I had nothing to tell. And he was done. I begged him. I was like, just give me a chance. He was done. And then from that point on, this was only like a month after us meeting. From that point forward, he always said that he just couldn't do it. So for 5 years, it, like, there was other reasons too. He was a single dad full time with a son who had a disease that, like, it actually takes a lot of effort to take care of. But mostly it was that of, like, he gets too jealous. He doesn't trust. And I'm just like, why were you on it? Like, it just, I don't ever believe that, but I just always went back to the beginning, and the beginning wasn't even that good, but what we build up in our minds, and, like, the fantasy we create. I was watching something that was talking about like, you know, when you're manifesting things, your brain believes anything you say, so you want to say like all the positive things. Well, when you're dating
Yeah.
someone and you're thinking about like the future you want to have with them and all this stuff, your brain believes it. So when you end things with
Hmm.
them, you feel more devastated because your brain is believing that they were this person that you built up in your head, when reality
Yeah.
is it's not great. So I held
Yeah.
on. I thought eventually he was going to be ready and we were going to be together. I was freaking crazy about this man. And then, like, last year, or no, it's been 2 years ago now. Holy crap. 2 years ago, he he didn't even end it with me. He was coming to my house to pick up some stuff, and I asked him, I was like, so am I going to see you like this weekend? Because usually I every weekend saw him. And he was like, no, I think we should just try to be friends. And I was just like, what? So I like, my mind starts spinning. I'm like, what did I do? What happened? So I like pressed him
Yeah.
about it. And finally he's like, I've just been talking to someone and I just want to respect that. And I was like, okay. So he came and picked up his stuff. We like gave each other this huge hug. He like had tears in his eyes. Like it felt like we said goodbye. And I
Hmm.
was absolutely broken and devastated and like, oh, it crushed me. And the very
Oh.
next day, his status updated on Facebook to in a relationship. And I was just like,
Mm.
so it wasn't that he couldn't do it, it was just me. And for like that
Oh.
entire year, I was a wreck, a
Yeah.
complete wreck. They only lasted
Yeah.
a month. We talked a couple times that year. The next year, he came and visited me. So because he wanted to practice figure drawing for one of his classes, but I was just so over him, and it felt so good to see him and just be like
Yes.
over it. And I was strong. He like wanted some stuff, and I like he was messaging me later about maybe we don't have to do all of it, but just like these things. And I was just like, honestly, I don't even want that feeling of trying to get you taken care of. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to do it, so I'm not going to.
Yeah.
And just being able to say I just don't want to, like that felt so good. Have I heard from this
Yeah.
man ever since I told him I don't want to do it? Nope, sure have not.
Good for you.
Yeah,
Good. That was long and hard.
yeah.
So to see you finally free of that mentally,
Oh,
spiritually, like it was draining. It's hard to give to someone who's not fully reciprocating,
mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah, he did things for you, and I'm not going to say he didn't do, obviously you loved him for a reason and he had his qualities, but he wasn't fully reciprocating your efforts. And so to see you finally move away from that and be like, you know what, dude, like that's enough. I'm good.
Yeah,
It's empowering.
it
That's what helps
is.
people like me to make decisions, right? I think there's strength in just seeing a woman stand up and know her worth, you know, and you're like, I can do that too. I don't have to stand for, this mess that these men are telling me or trying to blow the smoke up my skirt. Like, I can be strong and I can choose. I don't want to do that. I don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a powerful place.
It is. It felt so good to finally get over that. And that's when I was able to like pour love into myself and start growing. And like I became such I'm grateful for him because for 5 years, instead of being focused on dating and being on dating apps and doing all that, I was focused on being a mom. I was with my
Yeah.
kids all the time. I became the mom that I am because I had him as like he was there and I didn't have to put energy into men. And
Hmm.
I'm very, very grateful for that
Yeah.
whole thing for that reason. But it also like he's the first man that ever broke my heart. When I got divorced, I wasn't sad. It just sucked. But with him, like he's the very first like breakup that I had. And it's really hard. Like usually you learn how to let go of someone when you're a teenager. And I didn't ever
Yeah.
learn that. So learning that at like 35 years old is
Yeah.
crazy. But now I
I
think
also think
it's
he's the first man to really like show you that love,
mm-hmm.
and what it can be like.
Yeah.
He treated you, like I said, he had his qualities and there were things you really loved about him. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that was the first time where you're like, he kind of brings out the better side in me, kind of thing, you
Yeah.
know? And so I'm grateful for those lessons that you got to learn. I'm grateful for what you gleaned from that relationship, but I'm also grateful that you were able to move on and not stay stuck.
Yeah. Me too. I learned a lot, and now it's easier for me to I'm not going to say it's easy to let go of people. It never is, but I definitely am stronger, and I will not ever get caught up in that situation again. That was, oh, it
Yes.
destroyed me. It was awful going back over and over and over. It just sucks.
Yes.
But
Yes, yes, yes. We made it to the other side.
yeah.
Revived.
Yeah. And then just since him, I've only dated, those are the two that I'm not going to name because I don't think they deserve to be named right now. They're great people. One of them, like, spoiled me. He planned our dates. He picked me up even when it was like 40 minutes out of the way. Like, he was so freaking awesome. I really liked him, but he didn't like make me laugh. And I'm a really like
Mm,
sarcastic, sassy person, and he
yeah.
like took everything seriously. And I don't know if it was too
That's
early,
weird.
so he like wasn't sure if I was joking or serious because he didn't know me well enough. But I just never
Yeah.
felt that like we never laughed. On paper, that man was like dream guy. He had a great job. He made tons of money.
Hmm.
Him and his ex that they have their kids together. He would take her on vacations with them so that their kids had like the whole family together, and he paid, like, she was still a stay-at-home mom because he paid her everything she needed to live so that her kids had the mom that they need. Like, he
Hmm.
was a great guy. But after
Yeah.
a few dates, a girl that he had been in love with said that she wanted another chance, and so he ended up dating her for like a year. So
Hmm.
I was happy for him because if Chad would have reached out to me at that point, I would have been with him too. I can't really
Yeah.
hold someone. We had only had 3 dates, so but he
Yeah.
was awesome. And then after that, I met someone who is like the greatest. He like I feel like it's weird to think about that Chad had good qualities and made me really like feel love for the first time because now I feel like this guy made me feel love for the first time. I had never experienced it with anyone else. And it was like the best feeling that I've ever had. And I have like so much hope. It
Hmm.
sucks that it didn't work out with him. Like timing is just bad. Um I kind of hope in the future something will happen with him, but also I'm kind of moving into, for some reasons I don't think it will. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. But I think the
Yeah.
last two guys I've dated, because of after Chad, I had to learn and I've been able to pick better. I've been really impressed
Yeah.
with them. So I know great men are out there. I have a lot of hope. I think that I'm
Yes.
amazing and whoever ends up with me will be super lucky. So as long as I feel like
That's
that about
right.
myself, I think I'll find the right person.
Woo woo. You're exactly right. Yeah, I mean it's hard, and kind of listening to that, it reminded me of my relationship, or you know, I guess maybe situationship, whatever you want to call it, with, I won't say his name, but the entrepreneur, we'll call him that.
Mm-hmm.
So you should know who I'm talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
The entrepreneur. I've only dated like one entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
so that was hard. Just kind of reminding me of what you were saying. And we spent years going back and forth. And it's like he would fill my cup in so many ways. And there's so much about him that I admire and look forward to, and he really knows how to speak to me. But I think the downfall, and what was really sad about that, is just that his business came first,
Yeah.
you know, and you can't really fault him for that. And that's why I said it just was kind of sad, because he did the times that he did, and he would be really great. But then
Mm-hmm.
there were times where he didn't because he was so focused on his business,
Yeah.
business, man. And he's grown. He's doing amazing. He's doing like big things these days.
Yeah.
He just put on a whole convention like last week,
Wow.
sponsored by his company. Yeah, that's
That's
really
cool. I
impressive.
deleted
And he's
him
got
off
like,
of all social media, so I haven't seen any of that.
oh, yeah, we're still friends. He'll still reach out once in a while, but that was, like I said, kind of sad. He was the one that I kind of compare to that one you were just talking to. Like,
Yeah.
everything was great and amazing, but sometimes your lives maybe just aren't aligned in your priorities. And like I said, I can't even be mad. Why could I ever get mad at
Yeah.
you for wanting to pursue your business and make it,
He
you
took it a
know?
little far though. He
I
like
mean, he
there's
did come in. He had to overcome citizenship. He had to
yeah.
overcome a lot.
He did have to overcome a lot, but he took it far. Like you've got to have a work-life balance. Like, you've got to,
Yes.
like, he doesn't have to put, like, 50-50
Or you
attention. Like,
lose it all.
his business needs,
Yeah.
like, 80% or 90% of him, but, like, he wasn't even coming close to 10%. Like, it was all business. And then if he happened to have a break, then he would think about you. But
Yeah.
he was a good guy, and
So that was
some of
hard.
them are good
He's a great
guys.
guy. We had great chemistry and he treated me well. He always
Mm-hmm.
treated me very, very well. And he invited me, I remember he invited me on a couple trips and things like that, but I was working that 9 to 5. I couldn't just up and go
Yeah.
on no trips with that man. I wish I could.
Yeah. Take me on a
But
trip.
yeah,
Great.
like I wish I was trying to make that happen, but it just didn't, So that
Yeah.
would be probably the only other one that I kind of held near to my heart that was maybe worthwhile, but
Mm-hmm.
just it wasn't aligned. And then I'd say the other man I felt like that about would be my friend Mike. And Mike and I dated in middle school. So we go way back, like seventh grade. We were boyfriend and girlfriend. And then I broke up with him. I don't know. I was embarrassed. He had bought me like all this Valentine big shit and brought it to school. And back then, you're not into that. So I was like all embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, then broke up with him, young kid stuff. And we just stayed friends. And then from then on, we were always close, close, close. But I mean, it was like love, 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 love. But our lives just never aligned because I got married and then he was like engaged, and then that lady died and then he had to raise his son on his own. And he was like this single father and his son became his priority, which again, I couldn't fault him, but all through our years, he's actually passed away now, sadly, and I miss him dearly. But that was one of the other like greatest loves of my life where we never actually just got to give it a go though. We never really just got to date
Yeah.
and say, hey, let's just see what we got and if we can make this work. It's like our lives were always so we loved each other. And when we were together, it was phenomenal. That man loved me. He showed me love. He would do anything for me, for my mom. When I wasn't there, he would take care of my doggone mama, for me. Who does that? And they're not your
Yeah.
man. And so it was, I mean, he would give my mom medicine. His son's a diabetic. He would take medicine from his son for the sake of my mom, like to
Wow.
that level. So
It's
love. And
like,
he would write poetry. Like the man
oh,
showed me love, love, love. I wish I still had it, especially now that he passed away. Like that's
yeah.
sad.
It's really hard, I
But
think, when you
yeah,
never get a full chance. Like that what if.
yeah,
That's real. I think
yep,
that's hard for me. That's why I don't let go of people,
yeah.
because I'm like, but we haven't had a chance. If we just had a chance, it could work. But sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you're not meant to have a chance. And I have to learn to let that go even without the chance. But it's so hard for me
Yes.
because then,
It's
like,
hard, especially if
you
you
feel the
really love him.
potential. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's
And I
hard.
loved, and he loved me. He wasn't afraid. Girl, he would drop anybody for me and did. When my mom was dying and I called him, he's like, come stay with me.
Yeah,
Like,
I remember.
I'm like, you serious? Are you serious? He's like, yeah.
I just remembered that when we were working, now at that time we were all working from home and we were in a meeting and he walked up behind you and like grabbed your boobs on camera in the meeting and you were just like, I'm on camera. That was so funny and everyone else just like their eyes were like this big and I'm just dying laughing. That was so funny.
But yeah, it just never, and you don't know why. Sometimes I guess you're just not really meant to be with people because it doesn't align no matter how much your souls and things feel connected. That's not who
Mm-hmm.
you're meant to be with. And so
Exactly.
learning to live with that and let that go and be okay, and be open for new love, I think is really the challenge in the thing. You got to
Mm-hmm.
just be open for what's to come in your life, regardless.
Yeah. Are we just gonna
Hmm.
gloss over Pete? Mention him once.
He sucked ass.
He did suck ass. Do you have any advice for the people about what you learned from Pete?
I will briefly tell you about Pete. I met him online. That was the first strike. I think it
Yeah.
was Facebook dating. And he was gorgeous. I fell in love with his looks. He was so good looking to me. Fine Samoan dude, long hair. And I was just like, oh my God, he's so fine. I just wanted that man. And then we were really hitting it off over the messages. So when I finally met him and we hooked up that first night, and then by the morning, I think I stayed the night because he lived like 30 minutes from where I was. And he is up there talking about he's about to move out of state because he's getting evicted or something. Crazy story. He's like, I gotta move. I don't know if he's getting evicted or lease was ending, but he's like, that's nice, and I'm glad we're hitting it off. But I'm moving. I forget. I think to Wisconsin. What's one of them bordering states around us? He's like, I'm moving. All my family's in
Oh,
Wisconsin,
Wyoming.
Wyoming. That's it.
Yeah.
So it's been nice, but like I got like a week to get out of here, and this is basically like it ends here kind of thing. And I'm like, really? Because we're hitting it off so good. My dumb self. Why don't you just move in with me,
Yep.
Pete?
This is the lesson. Here it is, folks.
And I felt so bad because he had a son, and his son was so cute.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this man's just trying to make it happen for his son. He's just having a hard time. He's trying to have a come up. So I thought I would stand in and fill the gap so he could get back on his feet. And I was in the position to do so. Terrible idea. Don't ever do that. Anyone ever.
Yeah.
And he did. We moved in. I helped him. Like, we got a U-Haul and shit. We was driving back and forth like hour round trip, trying to get 30 minutes down, take his stuff, 30 minutes. It was a lot. I helped this man get out of his house. He moved in with me, and he was actually abusive. Like, verbally, it got physical. And that's when I said, yeah, we're not doing this. Once it started getting physical, as long as it was verbal, I was kind of taking it. I would just argue with him, but he was really jealous. Anything I did, he thought I was out fucking all the men. Like, I couldn't go to a Super Bowl party. I think it was with you. And he's like, no, who's going to be there? Like, anything I fuck, are there going to be men there? Yeah, men go to these things. Like, you know. And it just, we would constantly argue. He didn't clean. He always slept. He barely kept a job.
Yep.
And you're in my house?
It drove you
No.
insane. The cleaning thing?
Girl.
Your house is always, like, you keep your space clean. Your energy of your home is always immaculate. And he shifted the entire energy of your home.
Yes. I was not at peace. I used to come to work like, what did I do to myself? Mm-hmm. Girl, I was like, I done made the wrong decision.
And he would use his kid to guilt trip you and make you feel bad. And like,
yes,
he was a nightmare.
And him and his kid would shit in my toilet, blow up my toilet. It's all stained and poopy. And no, neither one of them want to clean it. He talking about I don't clean toilets. Well, you sure use it. So you about to clean it today. Like, I ain't the one.
Yeah.
Sleep. I'll come home. He sleep all day. Want to fucking eat all the time. Like, it was just disgusting. It got on my nerves really quick.
He was taking your money because he was eating all the food. He was really like living off you, and you were losing your mind.
Quick. I was not. And he didn't want to go. It was hard to get rid of him out of my space.
It was hard. You had to fight hard to get him out of your house.
Yes.
I'm so glad you did, though, because that moving in fast, that's why with Raymond, he moved in with me within like a month, and I ended up with him for 13 years. Like, no, do not let them
you
move
be feeling
in.
bad for people, and no, we don't have time.
Yep,
I felt bad in the moment and made a really dumb mistake, and then I think we were maybe together like 3 months. It didn't last too long with him at all.
That was only 3 months.
It wasn't long.
Girl, it felt like a year. Long. I feel like you dated him the longest. It just must have been the worst. I was like dying for you to get out of that because it felt like forever.
I ended that pretty quick because he drank a lot too. I don't know if he was an alcoholic, but he definitely drank. in excess, and he was not good when he was drunk. He'd just be argumentative and stuff, and like not violent, but violent.
Yeah.
He would hit his son usually and take it out on him. He never actually laid hands on me, but my loft that had the ladder going up to my loft, I was on that one time and he did throw me off. I was at the top of the ladder and he shoved me off. So that was enough of laying hands on. And that's when I said, yeah, we're
He
not.
also destroyed
Yeah.
your like I remember he like
It was that
tore
same night.
apart your entire house. Yeah.
It was that same night that he. So, like, you stay with somebody like that, if you're already pushing me off the ladder and I see how much you're literally abusing, he was literally making his son black and blue, like abusing
Yeah, it
to the
killed you.
point where I didn't know what to do. I'm like, do I report this? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was really at a loss because he's my damn boyfriend.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then his son, obviously, his dad was all he had. His mom wasn't really involved. And so I'm just like, God, what do I do? It was a really not good feeling to be stuck and knowing he's making his son. We had to keep him home from school because he was bruised
Yeah.
from his father. That was the worst, Brittany. I did not feel good doing that. And I'll tell anybody, you might be judging me now because I didn't call the cops. I don't know.
I
You put
think
yourself in that
hindsight, like
situation.
now we're different people. I think now 100% we would make the call. But I
Yeah.
didn't call either. I knew what was happening.
Yeah.
I knew how much it was tearing you up. And we talked about, like, what do
Mm-hmm.
we do? But, like, you can
Yeah.
only do as much as you're strong enough to do. And he
Yes.
was living with you, and it was, you just get in these
Yes.
situations. That's when you have to start, like, protecting yourself. And, like, yeah, it's a
Yes.
kid. Like, obviously, now we know, like, the kid comes first. You report that, you get them taken care of no
Yeah.
matter what. But in that moment,
Absolutely.
it's hard. It's really hard. You get wrapped up in people, and it's just consuming.
Especially when you love them and you're like, okay, this is my significant other, so like, which one am I loyal to? So it was just a hard place mentally to be in, especially when you're
Yeah.
not strong and you can't. Nowadays, yeah, I could give him the what for, but back then I was still unsure and I didn't really know. And I'm just like, I don't know, and I'm just, the best I could do was tell him if it ever happened on my watch again, I would, and threaten him in that kind of manner, and that's kind of what I leveraged to get him out of my house was like, I'm going to call the cops, dude. Like, you don't want me to do that. And that was the only main way I could finally force him out. And he even tried to, I remember he had already moved all the way out and he still was trying to message me and stuff. And we're arguing on the message. This man, literally, next thing you know, is in my house
Mm-hmm.
behind me. That was the last time I saw him, and it terrified me because my son let him in. My son didn't know. By that
Yeah.
time they had moved out, my son had moved in. And so my son didn't know he was on his way to work. And he's like, oh, yeah, like he had seen him. I dated him. He didn't know the full, details. And so he let him in. I didn't know he was even over there because I was talking to him on the phone, like texting. And yeah, he just walked up my stairs, come up behind me, like, hey, can we talk? What? No. Don't just show up in nobody's house. What the hell is
Mm-hmm.
wrong with you?
Yeah, and if he
No,
got in
and
the
he wouldn't
door
leave.
before he actually moved out, I remember every time, like, he would get in the door and then he wouldn't leave, and it was a whole fight just to get him out the door again. I can't get over that. That was only 3 months. That's insane.
With the bad sex, too. I don't even know. I just clearly
I
looked at
forgot
his
about
look
that.
and forgave the rest.
What were you doing? Oh gosh.
His sex was so lame. It was so lame. I'm like, oh my God, dude.
That's at least got to be good. That's why you don't wait. I can't believe people wait until they get married. I can't imagine. Or
And
like,
he had to find, like, the size was fine, but he didn't know what to do with it. And
yeah.
that's why I'm like, it really is what you're doing. It ain't all
Mm-hmm.
size.
That's very true.
You gotta know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. It's like 90% what they're doing, and size only matters a little.
Yes. And then he reached out a while later before I was with Jensen during COVID. And he was in Wyoming and he's like, hey. I think his like sister died, which was really sad, and he was telling me that, and I was talking, giving him my condolences, and he's like, thinking about you, I should come see you.
Ooh.
No, I was like, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think so.
Ugh.
That was
Oh,
the last time I heard.
him and Justin, those are the two. But I could fight them. But
Yes,
everyone else,
yes.
it was fine. But wow,
And then my lovely Jensen came
yeah,
along, finally,
best guy
to
ever. We
save me.
love Jensen.
Save me from this
Yeah.
dating world. It sucks.
Yeah. That's how I am. I
They
need
all
someone
suck.
to save me now. Niki found it. It's my turn.
I did. I was like, I'm about to be a cat lady because I am done with these
Yeah,
fools. Just me and my cats about to have a time.
that's how
You
I
know?
feel. I get scared because like it feels so good when it feels good, but like this feeling of like when it's not good, I hate it. I hate being here. I hate missing
Yeah.
him. I hate all of it. So
Yeah.
I'm about. I don't want to do it anymore. That's like I do because I've experienced something that made me like feel like it's worth it to find, but also I don't want to date.
Yes.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah. It's like I'm burned. This is a lot.
Yeah,
Men do the most.
yeah,
Or
it's
the
rough.
least. It's either one or the other, the most or the least.
Yep.
Just do the right amount.
Oh,
Don't do too
well,
much, don't do too little. It's Goldilocks.
yes. At least we've survived. I feel like now I'm strong enough. I won't end up in a horrible situation like that again or with a really bad guy, but you never know. We'll find
No,
out. Here's
that
to the
was
future.
scary. It's scary dating out there. You
Yeah.
never know. And nowadays, my daughter, she's divorced and dating, and she's like, it's so hard because everyone has different sexualities now.
Yeah.
And she's like, you got to make sure this man is heterosexual, kind of what I had questioned with Sunny. But I, part of me guess it's a lot more prevalent, and you just got to make sure if that's what you're wanting. If you're okay, I guess, with a bisexual or something like that, a pan. There's so many different sexualities, but then cool. But if you're like, hey, I'm a hetero and I'd love to have a hetero, that's becoming a new thing you got to kind of check for and verify, apparently, nowadays in the dating world.
Yeah.
You know, you sleeping with men and women, or
Yeah.
just women, you know?
Ugh.
I kind of don't want a man going both ways. I like a
Man.
good manly man
Yeah, me
personally,
too. It's I could never
you
like people
know?
talk about how nice it would be to like be able to be with women and like yeah, emotionally, but I need masculine. Like
Yes,
I need a man and I can't do that.
yes, yes.
So
Manly man.
yeah. It's rough out here, but proud of us for getting here.
Rough
We
out in the
survived.
streets. Did you make your love altar yet?
No, but I went on Amazon and found a bunch of stuff that I want, so I put it all in
Okay,
my cart. I've been trying. I think I
good.
found like a. I'll have to send you a picture, but I found like a shelf thing that holds things. It has like moon and stars and stuff in it. It's the mirrors, and I was thinking about using that, just using the little shelves and like hanging it above my
It sounds
bed.
pretty.
Yeah,
It sounds like a vibe.
so it is. It's just like with
Little
everything I
moon
want,
energy.
it's a little over $100. So when I have extra money, I'll buy them.
Pace it out.
Yeah,
It'll be lovely when you
it
do.
will
You're
be.
gonna love it.
I'm excited.
But I
Yeah,
guess that's it. We've been
that
at
is
this
it.
for a couple
So long.
hours.
It's
Who
7
else?
o'clock.
Yeah, I don't think there's any other outstanding dating stories that come to
Yeah,
mind.
nope. That's it. So hopefully you guys can learn from us and not have to experience it
Yes.
yourselves.
Or
Um,
share your stories. Tune in. You can write us. You can
yeah,
comment,
let us know.
and let us know what it was like for you. Share your craziest dating story. We'd love to laugh along with you or
Yeah.
share in the lessons that you've learned from that as well. So,
Okay, so next week we're going to talk about healing just from all the things. We've done a lot of healing from just dating, from our divorce, to just like being hard on ourselves and healing from that, healing from our parents, all the things. So we're just going to talk about healing, and that's it. So I hope you guys have a good week. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure you like and share and subscribe and all the things, and we'll see you next week.